This content is for informational and educational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever by Draper Gorin Blockchain, aka DGB, the presenter, or other associated parties for the content being provided. Please do your own due diligence and seek proper counsel.
Boom.
Oh, wow. Look at
What's up, John? John came in for people who sat through the intro. John came in 10 seconds before we were on. And so we haven't said hi to him this morning. Looks like you're like in an official place with a TV behind you playing the news. Is it just like your living room, or are you actually somewhere?
Yeah, there's nothing but business over here, man. That's it. 24 hours a day. We're just always listening. That's for sure.
Are we back?
Are we back?
Well, we're somewhere. We're somewhere. That's for sure. Depend if you could help define where is back exactly.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, 2 days ago on the weekend of Sunday, everybody was panicking, right? Like my buddy's calling me, my portfolio's jumping. See, the Robinhood now does this thing where they'll let you trade stocks on the weekend, right? So everybody on Sunday is panicking as they look at the futures market, right?
my favorite was some of the conversations I was having over the weekend. A friend of ours, their kids are going to college in the fall, and their college fund has fallen by 40%. I'm like, oof.
Oh shit.
That hurts.
Oh, that's
that hurts.
True. Yeah, you're like, you've been saving for years. You're in some like just one of those like things, like my brother's a financial advisor, one of those like diversified, Fidelity, Vanguard, whatever thingies that have, you know, just S&P 500 ready for retirement kind of thing. And your kid's literally graduating right now and, you know, planning their college trip. And you're like, oh, fuck.
I feel brilliant right now because on the 529, like a month ago, I'm like, you know, the market's high right now. I'm taking it out the money out of the aggressive fund because I've already drained enough out of the cash fund, and I'm like going to take it out of the aggressive fund because I know the market's high, and it seems like that was a good choice.
Yeah, man. Interesting.
Most
times.
of us
There's
don't have 19 children like you, also. You know,
not quite that many, but
I know. I exaggerate it. You know.
I know.
Oh, real quick before we jump in, because I want to hang with John and see what's new. Go to dgb.vc. We launched a new website, everybody. You can check out all of our portfolio companies and our previous funds portfolio companies and everything else. So check that out. There's still more content being added, but it's pretty rad. Actually, I noticed that we didn't do it with all the companies yet, but we have a map on the portfolio page. We can see where they are around the world. Not all of them even have their location in there yet. So it's going to get the map will start looking even cooler very, very soon. So I'm very, very stoked about it. But John, what's up, dude?
Man, it's been so long.
Way too long
to just hang out with you guys. How are you?
Doing good. You know what's funny is I drove through your neighborhood like over the weekend. I wasn't like literally drove through because we were on the way for a thing for my son. So I didn't get to send you a text and try to find you guys.
Oh,
but
man, how nice was it? So beautiful, right?
Dude, it was a
perfect weekend.
Beautiful day. We spent most of it in the car because we did a day trip to San Diego. So it's like, you know, long.
Nice.
But,
oh yeah, it's driving to San Diego. For anyone listening to this, if you've never had the joy of driving to San Diego on a Saturday during the day, during spring break through summer, you'll want your 4 hours back.
Yeah, well, we got lucky. So I'm way north of where you are, and we got lucky. We drove in the morning and got down, like we were like in your neighborhood, like in less than an hour and a half, and then to San Diego another hour, but we were taking like the coast and being slow because we had we had to be there and we had plenty of time to get there. But then, you know, when you want to like have a early dinner and head back and you're sitting in traffic, it did take, you know, like probably 4 hours to get back.
It's fun. Super fun.
But oh shit, looks like Coop joined backstage too. We'll get Coop in here. Coop, I saw you were posting something in your private chat about the Blockchain Association stuff going on today. How you doing, dude?
Hey man, just multitasking. Yeah, they just wrapped up their meeting, but they're having a round table right now. If you want me to post the link in the chat, I can post it.
Yeah, post the link for everyone joining. But John, since we haven't seen you in forever, you want to give us a little what's new with Lunar Crush, and then give us your opinion on well, we could jump into some markets and stuff because you know better than the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, what's new is just we've been scaling and scaling and scaling. I mean, we collect millions of social posts a day and analyze them, and just trying to make sense of that all, and leveraging different AI models to make more and more sense of everything. That's really where we're focused right now. And I'd say like around that, it's really focused on our API. So while it's interesting because if you look at like consumers, individual investors and that posting about crypto or posting about stocks or posting about anything on social, it's very down. It's down. What's that?
Tariff seems to be the big post. I think I saw a post from Lunar.
Yeah, and I can show you that it's even higher than when you saw that last time. So like a lot of bearish activity, and I think what that's translating to is like exponential demand from institutions trying to make sense of it all. And so we're seeing a lot of institutions starting to use social data to make sense of what they're already looking at, as well as sort of like I'll call it like an innovative arm to try and use social as an experiment to trade and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, large institutions using social data as an element to make sense of everything. We've got clients. One client is looking at like 13 different stock markets and trying to understand the social activity across every different stock. So pretty fascinating.
So they're separating out the stock markets as separate categories to follow.
That and different stocks and using it alongside other market data that they've already got. So like they might have 15 different sources of data and we're one of them, and we add alpha on top of all of that. And it's really fascinating when you start to see, like David mentioned, like the mentions of like tariffs have gone parabolic. I mean, absolutely insane. The mentions of trade wars is accelerating like crazy. And so when we start to see these like really negative things, like the mentions of China have gone crazy. And so
did you see that how
China
posted a tweet that was all it did was tag Trump? It didn't say anything, it just tagged Trump. What?
I responded. I just tagged Lunar Crush. I didn't know how to respond to that one. But yeah, I mean, but what's interesting is there is a ton of Chinese propaganda showing up on X, and I'm sure we're all seeing it. And whether it's, hey, look at this cool innovation that only we have that you don't. There's a lot of that.
I've been seeing lots of posts pop up that are like, we're here in the heart of China with self-driving cars, and we're living in the utopia in the future, and you guys are it was like a lot of
they're
posts
inviting a lot of influencers to China just to see the coolest things, and like there's a lot of that. So I think we're in this sort of how do I put it, like we're in this macro driven world right now where it changes every hour and everyone's scared. And there's massive opportunity in that. You just got to uncover it.
Massive volatility potential too.
Yeah.
If you're long or if you own an exchange, you're winning right now, right? Because no matter what, if up or down, volumes are at all-time highs, right?
Or liquidity pool.
Oh, right. Rankin is the exchange right now. He's in all the liquidity pools.
Nice.
You guys think I'm joking, but Rankin has done experiments, and without getting into too specific, but if you ask him to educate you privately about liquidity pools, he'll pull up things that just don't make sense to anyone other than him, like hundreds of liquidity pools that he has like $4 in, or like little amounts. Like I'm not saying he's some crazy billionaire. Don't target Rankin. But it's like he does experiments to learn about all of these, and he's in all of them. Like he's literally
not all of them. You over-exaggerate.
I told you I exaggerate.
I want to hear more.
We should do a refresher course on liquidity pools, because you did that one you did it for the Bitcoin meetup.
Yeah. Oh no, I can talk about it for a couple hours.
I know.
Hey, Dave, you're the DeFi king, man. I'm telling you, man.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, man.
You know what's interesting is I was on Basescan. And I was noticing that Uniswap's all their LPs on Uniswap basically have a disclosure on BaseSwap that there's a brand infringement. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. I like tweeted out at Jesse and then tweeted out at Uniswap and whatnot. But it basically says we have received reports that this token uses copyrighted or trademark materials without authorization and is not associated with the rightful owner. So I don't know how that got posted on Basescan, but it's like on every liquidity pool on Uniswap. Right.
That's
You know, that's crazy because I just launched a meme coin and I stole the Pinky in the Brain brand IP and I launched it and I didn't get in any trouble.
Not yet. Now you got no deniability.
That's the first time I've seen a brand infringement on
I actually bought Pinky in the Brain.soul, so I figured I own this shit now. Like, I don't know.
No. So I thought that was interesting to see brand infringement on Basescan for an LP.
That's all it takes.
I mean, I thought this was kind of a decentralized space, but apparently, I guess we're associating brands now.
Well, if you would have gone 2017, 2018 times, I don't think a group like Uniswap would have had the balls to piss off their community and say we're trying to enforce IP rights on our open source code. Right? Like, that would have been bad for street cred, right?
I'm wondering if it's only because it's Coinbase, because you go to Optimism's scanner, like it doesn't say it there. You go to all these other chains, it doesn't say anywhere except for on Basescan.
Damn.
Like, okay, so like, why are somebody targeting out Basescan?
Is it Basescan though? Because who runs Basescan? Does EtherScan run Basescan?
Basescan is looking at base chain that Coinbase.
I know, but I'm saying like what company runs Basescan? Because I know that EtherScan does a lot.
Cloudflare might run that shit.
I don't know.
Oh, it says powered by Base.
I would have thought it was probably EtherScan, but maybe not.
Their logo is the EtherScan logo.
Yeah, built by the EtherScan team.
Oh, okay. So, well, I don't know what kind of copyright stuff they would be.
That's why I'm playing this space. I look at this stuff and I was like, okay, why is this out? Because this is the first time I've seen it. I don't know. So I thought that's so
yeah.
And you're saying they copied this blanket statement on all of the contracts on
all the Uniswap. All the Uniswap E3s, and nobody's replied to my comment on it yet. So they're probably asking their trees, "What the hell is this?"
This is crypto. You're supposed to answer tweets before you talk to your lawyer, like SBF did. Remember, he was doing like podcasts and stuff against his lawyer's wishes because he knew better.
But it
I like the interview from jail. That was pretty amazing.
So
hey, SBF did the interview, right? He did the interview from jail, right?
Yeah. Is it true you got in trouble from that or transferred or something?
He got in trouble. They found his cell phone.
So crypto posts and tweets are still really low right now, right?
They're at the lowest in the...
Doing an interview from jail with a cell phone you snuck in is almost as bad as talking about the IP you stole on a live stream.
He didn't sneak that cell phone in. He bought it off another inmate, y'all. You know he didn't bring that in.
I was trying to troll you.
They probably allowed him to take it in.
Was it a cell phone? He was streaming that from a cell phone? It looked pretty clear. He had bandwidth in jail? Well,
he's a billionaire. He had a really high-end cell phone, a burner cell phone in jail.
Maybe somebody sent him a Starlink,
That's exactly what Elon Musk had something to do with this fella. He was just doing the Starlink.
Sorry, John, what were you saying?
I don't know. What was I saying? David asked if social activity around crypto is low. Not only is it low, it's at the lowest point in the last 365 days. So
that's
amazing. And if you look at what people are talking about within their posts on these coins, it's mainly around macro things. Even on altcoins, there's a lot of macro discussions. Like there's a lot about Trump and trade wars in China, and like it's just there's a lot of nervous type of posts that we see, and so I think that's really dominating everything. And so I think it's. You could take it on one end as a massive opportunity because we are so low, or you can continue to say, oh shit, is it over? So like there's this thing, there's literally that much fear.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I think one thing to take out of it though is it's important to kind of zoom out and say, well, like, all right, so this is happening, and there's a lot of negativity out there globally, and the changing of the world order and how trade works and globalization or the end of it, and there's all this. Well, what's not correlated, or what can sort of ride the rails of what's been said that's positive? So, for example, Trump has specifically said that he wants the United States to be the Bitcoin mining capital of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. How do we not?
Right. It's amazing. So then life, given all this crazy uncertainty, life might be pretty good if you're a publicly traded Bitcoin miner going forward here, right? If you're focused on
Bitcoin, or holding a little bit of Bitcoin, your life is good.
Yeah, right. Or and if you had only been holding Bitcoin over the last few years, life is good. You didn't notice all this craziness. But so like I think things like Bitcoin mining, things like saying things that are focused on AI might have their massive fluctuations. So you've got a lot of different risk tolerance out there. If your risk tolerance is high, expect 70 to 700% moves in anything AI related. That's a token, right? So I think that these kinds of spaces are really where we should be watching. But I think it's sort of like there's another narrative that's really interesting, and it's happening right now. And that is meme coins. Didn't think I'd say that, but if you think about everything going on, everyone's focused on this macro narrative and fear. And sorry, but if you're getting all-time highs mentions of words like tariffs and China and trade war, these are not the narratives of meme coins.
No.
So
well, are they trying to, like there's the people who are notoriously short are constantly trying to come up with different narratives, right? Like you're doing your meme coins, you're going, John, like they'll be like John doxed himself, or John is on the live stream, he mentioned the thing. They try to blow something that's positive out of proportion, right? Like, and then they try to blow something that's take anything negative and blame them dumping on that, right? Versus what might be the truth, or maybe it is the truth, right? But is it that meme coins are being more sophisticated, or is this just the current narrative of everywhere you look, tariff? So that's why my pinky and the brain meme coin isn't doing good, right?
It's really so I would say, like, it's really simple. We're all wrong. That easy. And what I mean by that is, like, individually, like if I asked you, I start a tariff meme coin. There is many tariff meme coins. If I asked you that, like, Alon, let's see, it's Tuesday. Let's say we talked Sunday, and if I asked you your to give me your whole thesis on Fartcoin, what would you have told me on Sunday? Right? You would have said, "Come on, dude,
silent
this
but
risky. It's silent but deadly, and it's risky. And in this environment, I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree with that." And we probably all have our own point of view, but collectively, as a society, as a community, everyone's right. But individually, we all have our own little thing that we think. The reality is, Fartcoin's up over the last 7 days, and not much is. And then you go and yesterday again, in this environment of everyone posting about tariffs and what Trump ate for breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks and his 6 Diet Cokes, like, everyone's so busy following that and then copying those posts, doing the exact same post to get engagement. Pump.fun ecosystem coins was the top performing sector yesterday.
Wow.
So like, and is it down, way down? Oh yeah, it's way down. but when you look at this, you have to ask yourself, like, everyone with their own little narrative, it is wrong. It's kind of that simple, and it's weird to say that, but it's sort of like Pino, Pino, which you probably never even heard of. Oh, it's up 19.66% over the last 7 days. Meanwhile, the stock market's tanked, right? So, like, we have to be thinking a lot here, and like really absorb this moment in time, like really pay attention, because we're sitting here going, like, Fear is crazy right now. Fear, lots of fear. Markets are wild, yet Pinot's up 20%. Right? Like this is like the such an amazing time to observe, pay attention, learn, and understand like what's next. Really spend a lot of time in that.
It's crazy. We're supposed to be in the middle of a bull market. And if you go look like if you look at the middle, if you look at the ETH to Bitcoin ratio, we're back at like 2020 levels. Like it's just crazy. And I know like everybody's gravitating towards Solana because that's where all the meme coin traffic is, but like there's still stuff being built on Ethereum. Like, and there's like no news on it.
Well, the layer 2s, right? I mean, it's a lot of stuff being built.
On layer 2s.
We're not getting any immediate exposure. You're right, Dave. I haven't heard anything about base, optimism, blast, none of it.
Because the narrative is macro. Like that's the thing. The narrative, like the big like attention out there is not focused on the innovations happening on the base ecosystem or Solana or freaking Ethereum or Stacks or Cardano or whatever, right? But it is focused, and you might love or hate this, it is focused on XRP, how they just bought an institutional player for over $1 billion. Right. And like it's an interesting narrative because we, historically have these like opinions about XRP, love hate. It's a love hate relationship depending on who you ask. Or like your Uber driver loves XRP for whatever reason. And you're like, you're sitting here.
My son asked me if he could buy XRP a couple months ago, and I let him. And I felt like it was dirty that he was doing it because I have these opinions, but I was like, he's smarter than me. Let's let him buy one.
One of my clients is going to have $250,000 of Ripple, and I just looked at him like, really, man, really?
Hey, what do we know? That's the thing. Memes are money, right? And they have the ultimate meme, and they've done great things for the whole industry, right? And so you want to talk trash like it's not decentralized, not this. They don't claim to be, as decentralized as Bitcoin or anything. They're trying to work with the banks, right, and the institutions. So,
well, we live in an attention economy, right? It's where the attention's at. That's a big part.
Hey, remember if we were talking about the big stock market crash around the or not even stock market, but the .com bubble moment in time, there were lots of people saying it's over, it's done, this internet thing, it was a fad, it was bullshit, it's not going to be a big thing for consumers. And where we are today is orders of magnitude larger than the peak of the .com bubble, right? We're in a space where we're going to be, and we are, going to be the rails for the future versions of the internet, right? Here, I'm going to throw this up here before we say hi to Kevin, right? Do I still have this thing here? See, right? This is from an old deck I had. No one starts an internet company anymore, right? Right? These are all logos from old school companies logged in there, right? Nobody starts an internet company. Every company is an internet company now, right? LUNARCRUSH didn't pitch me back a few years ago and go, "We're starting an internet company, bro." Like, but a few years before that, you had to say you were starting an internet company because that was the category you were in. That's not a category anymore. A hot dog stand is an internet company now. That's how it's going to be with blockchain and crypto and all the rest. It'll be an argument like, oh, you built it on, you were using JavaScript for that. Why didn't you decide to use, something else or whatever? Oh, we built it for iOS instead of Android. Like it'll be like those choices. Oh, you built on Base instead of Arbitrum? That's interesting. It's just a choice, right? Like
it's become like that for cloud as well. Like not too long ago, people were saying, oh yeah, that's a cloud-based, infra. It's like now it's just so ubiquitous. You just assume that's what it is.
Like, why would you have physical servers?
The CIA uses AWS. It's not. It doesn't make any sense. To do anything.
What's up,
else.
Kevin? Hi, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is. I like what Arthur Hayes was saying. Like a podcast, like on Friday and everything. But yeah, like this is great. This is the greatest thing ever. Like tariffs for Bitcoin. And what we're seeing right now is just the uncertainty, because the only way
Kevin's always coming on here talking about how much he loves Trump. Tariffs are the greatest thing ever.
No, you're joking. Actually, maybe I should.
That's true. People don't know.
I want to thank President Trump for his leadership. What else do they say? And a man with the courage and conviction to do what needs to be done. I mean,
okay, I should have taken it there. I'm sorry. I'm making it weird and then making it. Okay,
well, I've got a question. I've got a question for John.
But printing, let me finish my thought. Printing more money is the only way any country can respond to this. For the QE is the only way they can, and all of those measures lead to nothing but more decoupling of Bitcoin with fiat, and just commensurately, we can see maybe the greatest rise and quickest as possible. The only reason why it's been going down is because people haven't really uncertainty. When there's uncertainty, people pull out in everything. It doesn't matter. So it's just not sure what's going to happen.
It does feel like a big bait to make China print money. They haven't done it yet because their inflation rates are kicking our asses. But the second, if China decides to print some money, which they could, and not impact their inflation as much as the US did, because they haven't done it yet, is the way we have.
Everyone's going to have to print.
We also remember that most of the world still sees the dollar as being stable, right? So they sell.
it is compared to the rest of the world's money. It's a thing that I used to say all the time. You know why I didn't buy Bitcoin for many years, even though I was talking about it? Because we live in America, and as much shit as I want to talk about all the politicians, we're still we feel like our money's digital. We always have. We didn't feel any. I didn't feel in 2015 like I needed to keep my money hidden from our government, because even though I could talk shit about it, I still felt safe. I wasn't in Iran having bombs being dropped on me, right? I'm an American, right? We're lucky, and so even now, with all the shit we want to talk and all the uncertainty, whatever, we're still American. We're still super lucky. We could be in any of those other countries with our money being devalued significantly more than us, right? Except for maybe China. I heard it's a utopia. I saw a lot of influencers there this week showing some really cool stuff.
I have a question for John. All right.
Sure, David.
So what's your opinion on technical analysis? Because recently Bitcoin has shown a death cross on the 50-day versus a 200-day moving average. But the thing is obviously LUNARCRUSH, if people believe in the efficient market hypothesis, which is that, the market reflects all available information, and obviously LUNARCRUSH with its API is helping that. Do you think there's some validity to technical analysis, or do you think we actually have an efficient market that prices in things accurately? I mean, I have to look at things like Pelosi, who outperform. So I personally don't believe in the efficient market hypothesis completely, because there is asymmetric information. But I'm curious on what your thoughts are.
We're nowhere near efficient markets, not even close. And a lot of that has to do too with not all markets trade 24/7. I mean, look at Sunday. Bitcoin dumped when the stock market was closed. You can tell what's going to happen on a Monday based on how Bitcoin can trade on a Sunday.
Well, then Monday really wasn't that bad compared to what people were talking about on Sunday.
But look at the sentiment going into it, right? Look at what was going on. I mean, Jim Cramer's post was up all weekend about how Black Monday is going to happen, 20% down, just like in 1987.
I'm like, are we still doing Ember's Cramer? Because he was like, "Oh, don't sell out."
Yeah,
I don't like Kramer personally. I want to fight Kramer. If I ever see him, man, it's on site. I'm just letting y'all know.
I would love that.
Wouldn't that be great? Me and you getting a nice little tip.
We'll have to launch. We're gonna launch Coop Bale or something like that. Meme coin.
Look, me and you versus him and someone else. We can have a wrestling match. Me and you, Alon. Me and you.
I don't think I need to train for that one, but I should, because I haven't, left my desk, and I'm a pacifist. I don't think I've ever punched someone for real in my life, other than like a friend in the arm. So I've got to go to the boxing gym or something.
So David, one more answer to you there. I mean, again, if we're just talking about Bitcoin, but it's so much worse for every other coin. When you think of where Bitcoin is in its lifespan, in its life cycle, in its trajectory, and you just think of like the number of holders, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about the number of holders, I mean, there's 980 something thousand wallets, I believe, that have one or more Bitcoin in them, and so that's wallets, not humans. So the number of humans that have one or more Bitcoin is significantly lower than a million in a world of over 8 billion. And so when you think about it that way, and you think about NVIDIA stock, right? When you think of how much more market penetration NVIDIA stock has, and in all of the different financial fingers that come out of that stock, whether the different ETFs it's in, or mutual funds, or pension plans, whatever, Bitcoin is tiny.
Yeah.
And so I think when you think of it, like, people are always like, well, see, it's not a hedge against this or that narrative. See, because it went down. Well, it's early.
And it's the most liquid asset people have. Back in the day, it was, you know, the thing they could shit talk is, oh, it's not a liquid market. It's so easy to manipulate the price. You know, one person buys $100,000 worth, it changes the whole thing. And now the narrative is, see, it went down just like gold did, so it's not, you know, or it went down just like the stock market did, so it's not uncorrelated or whatever. That's a feature, right? The fact that it's so liquid and easy for people to buy and sell is something that didn't exist a few years ago, and it'll take some time.
Well,
I think
it's about time. Yeah. Good.
I was going to say, with AI, the bots, with AI now, and these whales and these mega whales and these super whales, and with AI and all of the collusion, we need a crypto task force to try to minimize that. Because I think
no government, we need less regulation.
There's an interesting.
Here's the thing: the government tries to regulate it. There's going to be bad actors that do it anyway, right?
Yeah,
it's just going to stop American companies who are trying to be honest from participating the same way.
Free open
right?
markets.
That's the issue, right? We're not going to have full free open markets because we
should have close.
But it's just not going to happen. But we want to at least have a close to level playing field for American companies. We don't want people to feel like they can't launch their thing here because it might be against the rules, or have their AI trading bot run because some regulation came out that's not exactly clear, right? And stuff like that. So that's going to be the issue, because whether or not the regulation is clear, there's either going to be people who do it anyway, or people in other countries that do it. And so we don't want, you know, from the perspective of us, people who invest in early stage startups who don't care on the day to day, like we care, but it's not going to change our life on the day to day what the market does. It's the thing we need the most is, you know, for Kevin to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants, because he's not a scammer and he's running a company, and we want him to be able to be the best company he can without worrying about, I'm going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers to just make sure I'm not breaking the rules. When obviously you're not scamming anyone, you should be able to run your company.
Yeah. Well,
Well, the AI lawyers are going to help with that cost anyway, Alon, you know.
Hey, that's true.
ChatGPT helps quite a bit sometimes. Proper counsel.
But they're going to be biased, right? To drive all the action to their AI friends.
You know,
I have AI. Is there a term for like AI and nepotism?
It used to be you ask a legal question to AI and it would say that you should go consult a legal counsel. Now they just kind of drop that off.
Because the lawyers are using AI to do it. Yeah, I remember it was Jor Law who told me once, like back a million years ago, I asked him for something, great. And then he was like, "You should." It was the most honest thing a lawyer ever told me. He's like, "Just go on legal. Go look at just go on LegalZoom and do it." I'm like, "Oh, really?" It's like, "Yeah, because if you hire a lawyer, they're just going to use LegalZoom for this anyway. So just do it on LegalZoom." I'm like, "Oh, wow." Okay.
Now, Jor, for everyone that doesn't know, he's an early crowdfunding guy that I knew for many years. He started a company that a lot of you may have actually interacted with called verifyinvestor.com. So he made it really easy to comply with the verified accredited investor rules by starting that company. Then he was an early crypto person, and he was on the board of Prime Trust, which was one of the biggest trust companies in our space. And I think he went in there and tried to help when everything was falling apart post all of those, all the things that happened in the market, kind of FTX related, stuff. But he's an early OG of our space and really smart guy. And he wasn't like, he started off as a securities attorney, right? So he would be honest and give everyone the real advice and be like, okay, this is important, that's not important. And good dude. So John, since we got you on here and it's been a while, we talked tariffs, leading the charts in terms of the search terms and what's occupying everyone's brain space and social media and everything else. But like, obviously it's mostly negative sentiment and stuff like that, but where's the light? Where are people positive? You said the meme coins are up, in terms of sector compared to the rest, but what are you stoked on right now?
I'm stoked on Bitcoin, but probably forever. I think that's not a secret. I think that, and that's positive. That's very positive. I think another thing that's positive is like how things are changing around it. People are positive around Bitcoin ETFs. They're positive around stocks that are holding Bitcoin. So we see a ton of positive activity around strategy. Mara, another big one. We see like GameStop, massive. And the GameStop to me is one of the most interesting ones because historically we've seen GameStop is the single most socially correlated asset we've ever tracked. That, the second being Dogecoin. So when you think about what's happening, you got GameStop with 6.3 or something billion in cash that just had their board approve that they can buy Bitcoin, and they haven't bought any yet, as far as I know. And so that's interesting.
Play. It's going to be an interesting play as the stock market is pulling back right now as to what happens with GME right before they're buying Bitcoin, right?
Right before they're buying Bitcoin. And, it's actually downsets because the market doesn't like risk, but it's sitting on cash that's worth almost as much as the whole float. And so when you that's like one interesting thing, but I think in general, the whole idea of public companies adding Bitcoin and potentially other cryptocurrencies to their treasuries is fascinating, especially when you add in the fact that for example, none of the Ethereum ETFs, they couldn't legally allow for staking. Couldn't stake ETH, and think about all of the absolutely incredible business models that can come out of that. You could offer a completely feeless structure to start. Right, completely feeless structure. You could also offer yield, right? So, and then you could also take that. I don't know. Can you take that and invest in tokens that are launched on Ethereum? Can you add other coins? Can you do the same thing with Solana or Cardano or Stacks or Tezos or whatever? Like what exactly does that lead to if that happens? And so I think it almost feels, in a sense, it's like, oh man, we're just scratching the surface of how crypto and Bitcoin can kind of infiltrate public companies. That's a really interesting thing that we see.
Well, public companies, so for and not just public companies, but any really large companies, especially ones that have employees in other countries, will in their treasuries have they'll hold euros and pounds and dollars because they might have employees that need to get paid in euro and employees that need to get paid in pounds or in shekels, right? And so they'll be like, ooh, right now there's a good conversion rate on dollars to euro because something happened. And they have either companies who work with them or their CFOs or teams will literally be monitoring the foreign exchange markets to make those decisions, because that could save them, just a few percent here and there in payroll essentially, or will generate yield for them because they put their treasuries into money market funds and things like that. The fact that, they couldn't do that with Bitcoin, even with a small percentage of their treasury, was hurting them, right? Because they knew money, inflation was going nuts. If they would have done that a couple of years ago, they all would have done really, really well. And so I think that even just from a clarification standpoint, it's not even just for a what I'm saying, where I'm getting at is it's just a totally normal thing. People are looking at it like it's, oh yeah, all these companies are going to be speculating on Bitcoin. Some of them, like a GameStop, might, and of course, MicroStrategy, that's their whole thing. But when regular companies start doing it, even with a small percentage of their amount as a hedge, or maybe for their employees who want to get paid in Bitcoin, ooh, there's a dip, let's buy some, so that when we pay guys like Russell Okung who wanted to get paid in Bitcoin or whatever, we bought the Bitcoin at a discount. They do that already with foreign exchange. Like, I've been on board calls of companies that have employees in different countries, and they're like, oh, a thing happened, a war happened, we should buy that currency right now because it went, there's an opportunity to buy it at 10% off. We have to pay the employees over the next year this much money in that currency anyway. And the companies, GameStop is only one out of thousands of public companies, right? But when hundreds or even thousands of the companies start doing it just for normal cash flow reasons, it's going to be even bigger.
Yeah.
Well, what about if they use the stable coins instead of Bitcoin, because the volatility, you know what I'm saying?
But then they're in the same place, because the stable coin is tied to the asset anyway.
But once they execute the arbitrage, once they execute the trade and take the profits, then they trade it to the stable coin to pay their employees.
Sure, yeah, that's the thing. They'll be able to bounce back and forth, and the more liquid it is, the easy. Like, they go, oh, we bought the dip, and then they go, oh shit, we need this for cash flow. They're gonna sell, right?
So I'm
just
curious,
gonna create more. Yeah.
Is what do you see on discussion for the stablecoin bills? Because there's a couple of stablecoin bills out there right now, and if these go through, these could potentially allow and open the gates for banks to create stablecoins. And if we start going that direction, I think we're going to see a way bigger trend in crypto as more people pile into stablecoins.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more discussion around stablecoins now. We tend to see that escalate.
I'm against bringing fake assets on chain like dollars.
Real fake assets.
So
sorry, the real world assets get me on this case. By the way, John, I own all the domain names around real fake.
It's the perfect onboarding into
money,
Bitcoin, right?
real
fake.assets.
I got it all.
Stable
but
coins.
this gets into an interesting discussion, because tariffs are up, like discussions are parabolic, insane, trade wars crazy, China crazy, stable coins up. Like the discussions are up, and it happens. You tend to see people talk about stable coins not when the market's rallying. You tend to see people talk about this when the market's bearish. But there's another thing happening too. There's a lot of innovation happening around stable coins and DeFi and things like that. And what I'm wondering too is, like, as we sit here talk about the infancy of crypto treasuries at companies, which is where we are right now. When you think about that, like, you got to think about also, well, what's next? What is Michael Saylor going to do with over 500,000 Bitcoin? What exactly does one do with that? Do you sit and go, we got it? Like,
He's gonna
I
got a solution.
It's 75 degrees. You use
Bima money. You use
what else is there to do? You got all the Bitcoin. That's it.
No.
By the way, okay, breaking news.
Hold
on.
Bima money, and you mint stable coins on the Bitcoin.
Okay, yeah. So here, wait, breaking news right now. Trump will impose tariffs of at least 104% on China on Wednesday after Beijing missed the deadline to stand down on its retaliatory threat, admin says. So this CNN breaking news, the administration just said they're imposing at least 104%.
Come on, Trump, do better than that, man. Come on, man.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
What does that even mean? Honestly, I don't think any of us really fully know what that even means.
What's more than 100?
I'm going to tell you what that means. Wednesday, Thursday, the SPY will show a bear market. We'll show a sell-off. We're going to have a death cross on like Wednesday, Thursday of the SPY, and likely that signals a sell-off. We'll see the market drop. We might get, this is just my speculation, and then this will be the excuse as to why that happened in the market. We'll blame it on this China thing. And so, like, the market's already, you can already predict what's going to happen to the market by looking at charts. And a lot of times the news will circulate around the charts that fit the narrative. And so that's kind of what I think we're going to do is fit the narrative, and we're going to blame it on the China thing. And then, eventually we'll recover and the market will come back and we'll have better news.
Trump is so good at marketing. Up until yesterday, everything was Elon Musk's fault.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, everything will start to being China's fault. Nobody's blamed him yet.
It's
pretty great.
His last term, you can literally watch the market based off of his tweets.
Oh, for sure.
And the market would change based off of what was said. It's your turn.
Yes.
So I got a question, y'all.
Emilio's not afraid to tell us what he
tracking
thinks.
what Trump says? Look, are we tracking what Trump says on his other platform, that Truth Social thing? Is anybody tracking that? I don't ever get on it.
Do you guys, is there any real volume going on there, John?
No, it's only him. And the reality is every one of those posts makes its way to X anyways, as I mentioned.
Yeah, so it automatically gets posted on Twitter and everything too, right? Or X,
he built a network for one person.
Yeah.
We looked.
He said,
well,
every time he's asked
to be
about this,
fair,
he's
same
supposed
with Blue Sky and Blue Social and all those things, right? There's no real volume in comparison.
No,
we've looked at a lot of things. The true, it sounds strange, but the reality is, other than TikTok and Instagram are a little their own thing, but like a lot of this stuff ends up making its way to X. It doesn't matter what it is, and it's still such a strong signal in these financial markets, especially like if we're talking about like entertainment or something like that. Yeah. TikTok tends to play a bigger role. Same with sports as well.
Are you tracking the validity of these of the social aspect? Like how truthful are the statements that are being put out there? Is this propaganda or is this like legitimate? Like
that's a can of worms.
We're talking about politicians here, man.
We track bots. That's what I'll tell you. We track bots and we track sentiment. And so we can tell you pretty accurately when it's a human. But the thing is, like what's correct, oh boy, like based on whose opinion.
Yeah, right.
But this gets into the fact that we're technically most of the time, all of us, everyone, not just the 5 people on here, everyone is wrong. Most of the time. We're wrong.
That's how I feel about you too.
Except for me.
Nothing.
That's actually the opposite. That's how I think about myself. That's not how I think about you guys, especially you, John.
No, I mean,
that's why I call you when things are going
wrong. You're wrong.
But my point is, like, let's say that I told you guys to not buy Fartcoin on Sunday, even though it went up the last 2 days, right?
That would have been prudent advice.
And then like we start discussing it, and then like we'd probably all say, "Oh, that's a bad idea." And then wouldn't you know, everyone goes and buys it, and it's one of the only coins up over the last 7 days.
I mean, I don't know if you've been noticing, but the numbers of viewers watching this since you've been on has continually gone up.
I'm sorry.
So,
is that a bad thing?
No, that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
So
the thing is, that means just by mentioning Fartcoin, you're likely causing some impact.
Let's try this. Wait,
I mean, what did you mean by that specifically?
I think I own 1 Fartcoin.
So, like,
everybody listening to get on the Fartcoin whitelist right now. Everybody listening, let's go.
No. We don't suggest any or.
You know what? My favorite Pump Fun moment was one of the moments towards the end of when it was going just nuts. And it was, do you remember, like, maybe it was like a month or so ago, Trump did his big speech. It was like 90 minutes or something. And then I literally had Pumped Out Fun open. And every time he'd say a word, anything, like Bigly, whatever he says, there'd be Bigly token. Like, and there'd be 13 of them, just like run. And so there'd be like, there was like 100,000 tokens minted while he spoke.
That's interesting.
I mean,
like,
because people think like, this will be the soundbite. This will be
the one.
And
mine is the one real one. Mine is the one real Bigly token versus yours is not, even though you're number 32. I was first.
If we could just concentrate our efforts and unite, we could pump this stuff really well.
He said, like his first tweets on this, his first Truth Social, but first, like in all caps, only the weak will fail. Only the weak will fail. And then he said, the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago, all caps. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panican. And in parentheses, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness, all caps, will be the result.
We should. Oh, there's so many stupid things. You know, it'd be really cool if Trump started trolling people and started posting like quotes from like the National Lampoon's movies or something. Be like, you know, and just when you think it's all over, it probably is. You know, like weird Clark W. Griswold quotes. You know, like just shit like that, and people would go nuts for it. You know, like. Like the fake early days of the internet, fake Abraham Lincoln quotes and stuff. Like he should just be posting shit like that all day long. You know, people would do that with fake Bible verses. They just kind of write things. They're like that sounds about right, and pretend like it's some religious thing, but they just made it up. A Panikin. I feel like we could make a really cool like team
Panikin
jersey for the Panikins. It's like a pelican, but like with,
has to exist.
you know, with diamond hands or something, holding up a fist. You know, what's a Panikin look like?
I would like to know who's creating all these meme coins, because I have some conspiracy out there that all of this is just being created just to absorb the excess capital in the markets.
It's kids, bots,
Spread it all out.
foreign engineers who
foreign engineer from government.
Yeah, but also
massive amount of meme coins just to absorb all the excess liquidity.
It could be some Manchurian candidate conspiracy with the CIA. You never know.
It's all of the above. It's all of the above. There is that, but there's also just kids going, if I make $3 today because I'm in this other country, I did good, right? And there's all sorts of things.
And there's always an American who's willing to throw away $1 and a meme coin.
That's right.
This stream is really interesting because it's indicative of what we see on social media right now. It's what everyone's talking about. It's unfortunately a shame because there's so many incredible things happening out in the world.
There are.
And everyone is distracted so often.
But that's the whole point, right? Dude,
okay. So what do you see?
I was just talking to my wife about this on the weekend. And without even having to go into politics, but it is politics, right? All of my most liberal friends and everybody I grew up with, all the punk rockers, everyone I'm friends with on Facebook are saying one thing. The extreme versions of things against Trump and everything going on right now, against Elon Musk and all this stuff. And they're saying it because it's their team. And I'm not saying everyone is like this, but so many people are saying things that if they were talking, you know, if somebody said the exact same thing about their candidate, they would, you know, be very angry with them, right? But like they're just saying the extreme stupid ass thing, like things that don't make sense when there's lots of things they could say that make sense. Then the opposite side, right? You go on Twitter and we see a lot of our friends on the more at least pretend. I hate the left and right because nobody that says they're left right now is actually left, and nobody that says they're right now is actually right. Nobody that says they're a libertarian is actually a libertarian, other than maybe, you know, like what's his name from Shapeshift, Eric Voorhees. He kind of toes the line and trolls his people. But regardless of that, right? Like all of these people are just saying stupid, retarded shit, right? And they won't take the good with the bad. Like I saw a bunch of people really pissed off at Jon Stewart, right? Who is basically like, by most measures, seems like a really good dude, raised tons of money for people who got fucked up in 9/11, you know, all of these things, good dude. But he was like, wow, I can't believe the government wasted $50 billion on broadband stuff that didn't get into the hands of anyone who needed it. What a waste of money. But because he basically said something that Elon Musk also said was true, everyone started hating on him. And it's like, come on, like we're become a stake, you know, and you know who wins? Those billionaires that are running the country, right? They win.
They spent $50 billion on that broadband shit. 50 billion.
Right? And you know what? That's not even a big.
And no one got internet with all that money. What?
But guess what? We all have internet anyway, so it's like a wasted, stupid thing anyway, because we all have phones and we're all connected.
That's just some of our neighbors didn't put passwords on their Wi-Fi.
Remember everyone getting pissed off about Obama phones back in the day? Right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama. Right? Like all the super right people were like, they're giving poor people phones, you know, like, and now it's like this opposite. The whole thing is that they're all hypocrites. Everyone's fighting, and there's so much good going on, but we got to focus on this, and we got to go. Elon Musk, he's a terrorist, which, he's not the best person in the world. I'm not going to defend him, but also he's not the boss, right? Like Trump could just say stop and he would stop, and the same thing on the other side. And China starting now is the big enemy, right?
Well,
What if him and Elon Musk got in a big fight though? That shit would be crazy, y'all.
I'm surprised they haven't yet. I'm honestly surprised they haven't yet, because the first time Trump ran, nobody's like 100 days in, not a single person who was a part of the freaking group that got him elected was still a part of his administration, right? Like everyone flushed out. And I was expecting the same thing to happen, right? Well, he was like the extreme funny version, but like,
in
was
general,
10 days or something, 7 days. How many days are in a
Scaramucci?
12?
I think it was 12
days.
I think
he came on. He loves to joke about it. He's actually a really smart and awesome dude. And he'll call out both sides usually.
He called out Steve Bannon, and that's what he said. I'm not Steve Bannon. I don't like to suck my own cock. And then that was the line.
He did not say that.
Yeah, that was the line. That was what got him. He had to resign.
So
you remember when for the Democrats there was a dude named what's his name? The guy who got really pumped up, and I'm talking about years ago, a few administrations back. Howard Dean was like, "Yeah, we're gonna win, and we're gonna get this state, we're gonna get this state," and people were like, he was too aggressive, and they kicked him out because he was like pumped and stoked and be like, we're gonna get Delaware next and this state next, whatever he was saying. Like,
Howard Dean.
How
quick. This is that last
20 years later. Yeah. He was like,
Chappelle did a Black Howard Dean.
20 years later, like politicians would be talking about, what they talk about now. And I kind of was hoping we'd become a snake eating our own tail. They'd throw all of each other in jail and then we'd start over. But apparently we still have the pendulum has to swing a few more times to the extremes. I don't know.
So I had a question. So John, overall, we know that hopefully for all of us that life is still good. What diamonds in the rough? What diamonds in the rough are you seeing in social media of goodness out there?
Well, you know what? I was actually going to ask you guys the same question, because it's, I guess how I'm looking at right now is throw what you know out the window a little bit. I mean, and there's some general areas that I think are obvious, right? Like, and it's not just in social data, but it's pretty obvious that things like biotech, when you consider that there's like a convergence of things going on. Like biotech benefits from AI, biotech benefits from blockchain, biotech benefits from semiconductors and computational power, and the genome sequencing being able to happen. Like what's the outcome? Personalized medicine, gene therapy, cancer treatments, on and on and on. Fantastic, right? So I think it's not something that like say we've seen a ton of activity so far, but I'm really, really interested in it. There's a sector in crypto called DeSci that is more of the common, I guess, term for it.
Yep.
Yeah. Centralized science.
And that I love, because I love that there's so much depth to it. And I watch this sector like a hawk right now, and I'm seeing who's entering this space. I mean, Alana, I know you're interested in early stage startups. Man, what a sector. And I'd say if you're looking for a real world example of what I mean, anyone that can just drive through San Diego, go drive around UCSD right now. Go drive around UCSD, which La Jolla area, that whole area is probably becoming the biotech capital of the world.
And it's a freaking beautiful area.
Oh yeah, it's outstanding. And go for a hike at Torrey Pines down there. It's amazing, the best. But like, when you drive around the campus and you see all these new businesses, there's like 100 buildings under construction in the area. And you look at the money behind these buildings. These aren't like prefab walls they're throwing up. These are like, holy cow, these companies all got billions of dollars of investment because the future's bright. Like really, really, really the brightest of the bright.
Yeah.
And so like it's really interesting when you think about like not just crypto for crypto, but crypto is a piece of a bigger converging puzzle, I guess. And I think there's things like DeSci. I think another thing to look at. So I'm not going to call it specific names, but I'll just say from a sector perspective, watch DeSci because it's going places. The other, and I wouldn't say it's any one kind of direction in a sense, but if we all are familiar with real world assets. And when you think about real world assets and you think about what's the convergence there and what's the outcome there, a lot of people they'll just start pointing to Chainlink immediately or something. And yes, it's an important piece of the puzzle. It's sort of the picks and shovels if we're using gold mining analogy in a way. But there's a lot here.
For sure.
And what I mean is there's on one hand you could throw Ondo is like BlackRock's, I think, investing in them too, and they're going to try to tokenize financial assets, stocks.
So I actually had a deck for a company in 2014 or something like that my company was working on, and one of the slides showed and this is pre-discussing. I didn't think about it as blockchain. I just thought about it as digitizing. But one of the slides had $7 trillion on it, just in giant letters. And in small, it's at the U.S. alternative investment market. So that's the annual U.S. alternative investment market. It was $7 trillion at the time. After inflation, it's probably well above 10. But $7 trillion a year. That's on paper. That's literally the real estate financing for those buildings that John was just talking about, right? All those things over the upcoming years are going to be digital. They'll choose which chains or not they will be on, but that is our world. That is, those things aren't yet more efficient by being digitized, but soon they will be. And when they're more efficient, we'll be able to be providing liquidity for those transactions in different marketplaces, and all these new categories will pop up. And when those researchers then create data, the decentralized science, the DeSci marketplaces will allow them to take that research that they've done and give credit to those research scientists in San Diego when some random kid in DC next door to Coop decides to take that data and create some therapeutic because he discovered something that nobody else figured out, and they'll be able to work together in some weird way that they never could before and save Rankin's life, right? Because something happens and he needs that medicine, right? Knock on wood, I shouldn't have used.
So now we're getting into the idea.
But I'm trying to point at everyone, right? But that's the beauty of this, and it's all going to be digital. And people will be like, "What the fuck does that have to do with Fartcoin?" It's going to be on similar rails, whether it's or not. And all of these experience, the liquidity, all of the load testing that occurs, in making sure that these things can actually run efficiently so that millions of people can buy Fartcoin if they want, will be part of the test, right? Did we think that, somebody said something like the government servers are on AWS or something, right? AWS exists because Amazon discovered that every millisecond of load time equaled more revenue on their e-commerce marketplace.
Well, it's a big thing, velocity of money.
More efficient servers, and then they started selling it to other people, right?
Yeah.
That's how these things happen.
I mean, what's awesome is we're creating lubrication for the liquidity out there, and we're also accelerating the velocity at which things travel, right? So if you understand the money multiplier, the more velocity the money has, the larger the multiplier, the larger everything grows as an economy. Which is going to be huge going forward. I mean,
there's an interesting point where and I brought this up in another stream a little bit ago because it makes you really think. And so far our history of crypto, blockchain, Bitcoin, this whole sector, has been technically oriented. What can you tinker together?
Yeah.
What can you cobble together? Can you launch a meme coin? Can you launch a layer one? Hey, is it more secure? Is it faster? Is it cheaper? We've been talking there's a lot of complaint of we're talking to ourselves because we're still trying to figure it out. Go from that to when we talk about real world assets. So one of the best performing coins over the last year, by the way, it's one called Mantra. And we had one of their JP Mullen, one of their founders, on one of our streams, and so it's up over 700% while we've all been complaining about everything being down over the last 12 months. So why? It's focused on real world assets. It's focused on all aspects of it, purpose built to tokenize real things and make them like secured on chain, and all sorts of things like real estate, for example, right? And so think about how crazy it is when we go from this last decade of tinkering and building and trying to figure out the base layer of building stuff on. But the stuff being built has mainly been, I give it about a 4 out of 10. Most of these things, they're neat, they're fun, they're viral for this same community. But is it your house? Is it the condo complex across the street? Is the Starbucks tokenized down the street? Like we're not anywhere near your city being tokenized, or your government, or your city, or your state you're in, whatever, right?
But there are some companies like Proto that you could check out on the portfolio page on the DGB website, dgb.vc, that are helping cities and counties and municipalities create digitize their cities and do some interesting things, right? And
super cool.
It's coming, but it's only you only see that it's coming if you're so crazy and early to invest in companies that you don't expect to get a return from for maybe 10 years, right? Because that's how long shit takes, right? And you have to be really long, and you have to look at these things from that perspective, or you're having fun. Trading and doing things like that is its own fun, cool thing you can do. But
I love it. Right now, we're going into one of the best times. We have a large demographic of young people who are entering the workforce, who are literally going to change way.
And they can't get jobs at those shitty companies anyway, which is awesome, right?
So they're going to build new ones, right? So
even if they want to, they have to create their own thing.
Well, and then we have AI tools now, which is going to be like the next computer revolution, where AI is not going to necessarily displace jobs, but it's going to create so many new jobs, and people are going to be able to do things so much faster because they have these tool sets now, just like we did. There was a time period, I don't know how many of our viewers remember this, but when people used to use carbon sheets and wrote shit on paper. My dad
my dad at his auto parts shop had the dot matrix printer that printed on the, what was it called? Those when it was 3 pieces of paper.
Triplicate.
Yeah, it was in triplicate. It was the white page. That's the one that we gave to the customer. Then there was a pink one and a yellow one. The pink one we put in one pile. The yellow one we saved as a record, right? And that was every invoice for an auto parts shop. Then I would take a stack of papers that, like, of the pink ones that people never paid us for, and I would literally drive around from shop to shop trying to collect. I'd be like, yo, Coop, you guys owe us $85 for that alternator. And I'd try to hustle them for cash because nobody wanted to pay, because they needed to wait for their clients to pay them to fix the car. And
the good news is you probably had their signature on the paper.
And then I was there. We had to try to convince. Then they would sign it, and then we would separate it all. And but that's how you did it. Then, we got QuickBooks for my dad, 10 years later or something, and tried to make it digital, but they still used that printer thing because they didn't trust that the QuickBooks was real. That was QuickBooks was like a backup for the old school stuff. And
so QuickBooks is a great example though of the issue with RWA, meaning you could just use QuickBooks. You could have used QuickBooks 10 years ago or more. I don't know when it started. You could use the desktop client version. I think you had to buy at Costco or something. Yeah. You could use the oldest of old QuickBooks and still be using it, and it's fine. And think of that as its own chain in a sense, if I'm giving an analogy. RWA, if there's some real estate startup that's this new token, this new on-chain thing that's got this platform built all around it, well, a lot of companies fail. Your house doesn't fail. What happens to all of that on-chain information? So this gets into a lot of what chain is this thing built on? Is that chain going to be around in 100 years? How do I transfer my deed to my house that's with a
is it going to fork?
Company?
Is it going to
fork?
What happens with the fork?
I would say we're getting into the thing between IPFS and AR weave and all the other alternatives.
Yep.
But that's a good question. After all the wars and all the shit that pops off, what is going to really be here 100 years from now?
Well, I know what Bitcoiners will say.
But this goes to my
the,
point of
and
like
is
we
the
spent
Galactic
the last decade
Federation
experimenting. Like the
Sorry,
last decade
John.
has been experimenting, and now we're moving to this. Oh, this is real. Like this is real. And so this thing needs to survive. And so even if a company needs to even if it goes away, whatever, it needs to work still. What does that look like? Because this is no longer an NFT collection or a meme coin, or this is real. This is like you're passing inheritance to multiple generations.
Yeah.
Thing needs to work. And it's the same thing of like, if you were using QuickBooks and decided to use that one accounting startup that said they were better, and then you put all your stuff in there, and damn it, none of the 6 years integrated over, or they were able to bring it in, but then couldn't put it back into QuickBooks. Yeah. And then you tried another thing, and then that didn't integrate, and then your business is a mess.
Move. Yeah, so people don't move.
And that's why the bigger the company, the harder it is to get them to do things. Sometimes there's bureaucracy that stops it, but sometimes it's for really good practical reasons. Startups get mad about it all the time, but it's like, they can't just switch over, right? Because there's a cost to it, and they have to take the risk that you're going to survive. And an enterprise isn't going to have blind optimism in, a layer 2 on Ethereum going to be survived 10 years from now, right? But they have to plan it that way. And we could be like, fuck yeah, Arbitrum. But will Arbitrum still have money in the treasury 10 years from now? I don't know.
So here's my other point, y'all. In the engineering world, they have the IEEE, right?
Yeah.
Which is like the group, everybody, all the countries, they all agree that this is, so that's what we need, a real whole world thing where we all agree this is how the fuck we're going to do crypto. As the base, as the bottom fundamentals. And then we go from there. 100 years from now, whoever's on top's on top.
Yeah, there are some foundations and groups, like for example, talking about the real world assets, Onera, one of our oldest and biggest portfolio companies, they over COVID times, they were trying to get meetings with people and to get the big banks and institutions to collaborate. It was practically impossible pre-COVID, right? But then over COVID, it actually created a new opportunity, and they created a protocol called FinP2P, so like financial peer-to-peer, and they started doing this thing. They actually kind of partnered with a group called GDF, Global Digital Finance or something like that. They're like a trade organization to help create like their blockchain RWA, tokenized asset, whatever you want to call it, version, meeting group within it. And they've been meeting every couple months, and they have literally like people from the biggest financial institutions in the world participating in this kind of collaborative environment, but also all of the startups building for them. So people like Onera and Archax and Tokeny and all the rest, right, are all part of those groups. And they're trying to kind of create this collaborative thing so that, let's say, God forbid, Onera goes out of business or a good thing is acquired by somebody else, JP Morgan will still be able to connect to the network because they're a part of this group, right?
Ecosystem.
Yeah. And but it has to exist, because think about this. When we buy stocks on Robinhood, we're not buying them from NASDAQ. We're not buying them from the New York Stock Exchange. We're not buying them from Nikkei. We're buying them from all of them, but we're going through a clearinghouse, which is going through some API, which is on the app, the Robinhood app. Robinhood just created a really killer user experience for us, but they don't have a direct connection with NASDAQ and a direct connection with the Deutsche Börse, which is the German stock exchange, and with every other stock exchange. They have one API that they connect with, and that API connects with all the rest, right? Schwab, same thing. JP Morgan, same thing. Every time you're on your online bank, you're connecting to different service providers that the bank has chosen to use. But their technology team doesn't want to manage a direct API connection to every single thing. So just because somebody creates a blockchain asset, right? We're going to tokenize a real estate asset. You think JP Morgan is going to go, you know what, I really want to integrate with that particular blockchain so that we can get that one particular asset to be available to our clients? That's impossible. It will never work that way. There needs to be these technology companies that give access to all the rest, right? And that's what, that group that I just mentioned did. And that I'm throwing gasoline on the fire of what Coop said. There needs to be IEEE creates a standard, right? Like the Ethereum Foundation creates standards, but then there needs to be on top of those standards, middlemen technology companies, because there's a few of those. There's literally like 2 or 3 companies worth billions and billions of dollars who actually power the technology side of all of those trades, that then each clearinghouse chooses which ones they want to use, and each exchange or front end interface like Schwab or Robinhood does. And those aren't yet in existence in the crypto space. There's Fireblocks on one side. There's like what Onera is doing, FinP2P, which connects Fireblocks and Swift and Chainlink and all of those exchanges, so that JP Morgan knows if I add this tokenized asset from this other exchange, from Archax, it's going to work on our rails. And they don't want to connect directly to Archax and connect directly with the KYC provider and all the different things. They want one simple connection. And so that's what's being built right now across all sorts of things. And the new versions of those exchanges, like you think, I think Coinbase will be as big or bigger than the New York Stock Exchange, but they're not going to do it for the traditional public stocks that we think of. What the fuck's the point of going public in the way that the old school system even did, if private stocks are just as easy to access, right?
Well,
right.
So,
because if I could buy LUNARCRUSH stock without going public on the New York Stock Exchange and them spending millions and millions and millions of dollars going through the legal hurdles to go public on Coinbase, and then Coinbase makes it easy for every Schwab customer to utilize them to buy it through an API connection, the game is over. We don't have the government-approved public stock exchange anymore. We have just the world of digital stocks.
Well, I'd like to bring that up, right?
And by the way, we're like 20 minutes over, so if you guys got to drop, I know we got to probably.
I have 5 minutes. I got a meeting.
Okay. Let's make it 5 minutes for all of us. Okay, go Rankin. Sorry.
So like Circle's another one. I believe they're IPOing later this year. But they have what's called the cross-chain transfer protocol, right? And the cross-chain transfer protocol allows you to basically bridge. And so if you have USDC on Ethereum and you want to take it over to Optimism, right? Rather than having to go through a bridge and having liquidity somewhere, you utilize their API essentially, and you burn that USDC on one chain and literally mint it on the other chain to then reduce issues of bridging. Yeah. And so it's like, we need these API providers. We need these type of platforms out there, and those who control those early on or build that, you're right, are going to be huge in this space.
And it's enormous. The opportunity is in the like hundreds of trillions of dollars. Because even if we're just talking real estate alone, like it's in the hundreds of trillions of dollars globally. Yeah. So like the thing that scares me a little bit, and it's maybe it shouldn't be, like for example, like Ripple today acquired Hidden Road, which puts them, it puts them more into institutional adoption. And there's many perspectives on like XRP and Ripple, and is it good, is it bad, and whatever. That's not what this is about. The point is that narrative changes. This is now probably a revenue driving acquisition that also can be made more efficient using a blockchain. The issue is, it'll be just fine if it's their own, and it'll be just fine as long as it's powered by their token. And so like that's great that we're making the world more efficient there, but how does that work with everything else? Yeah. I think that's a major problem, because otherwise you end up with these closed systems, which is no different than if it was in a database.
Yeah, piggyback on what you just said. We don't want Cadillac companies coming in the crypto industry making only Cadillac parts, where parts should be interchangeable between the different blockchains and protocols, etc. I agree completely with what you said, John.
I'm waiting for that partner that we can find to start a business with us that can manage the energy usage from cradle to grave, and monitor it and create the perfect API that can then be managed by AI to find the most viable source of producing anything on this planet. That's what
it sounds like a quest to go find a new company to fund right there.
And by the way,
I have the idea, and I already have it built out in the model.
Okay.
If you're two people with an idea or an entrepreneur that wants to track entropy through a startup, I'm going to get nerdy about it. Then go to dgb.vc and contact us. Sign up for the newsletter, all that stuff. Before we finish off, John, tell everyone where they can follow you and LUNARCRUSH. Obviously, it's been on the screen the whole time, but
yeah, I'll just say go to LUNARCRUSH.com. That's LUNARCRUSH.com and check it out. You can start clicking around for free and subscribe. You can check out the API. We have lots of we've got almost every exchange using it now, which is pretty wild.
Nice.
And they use it for so many different ways. Sometimes to display social data, sometimes as an element of who to list. We've got financial firms that are integrating it into many different models. We've got AI agents using it. And so it's really exciting to see kind of what we built and how it's evolving, changing, and it's changing all the time. So yep, check us out, LUNARCRUSH.com. Follow us at LUNARCRUSH on X. And I will leave you with that.
Heck yeah. Thank you, John, so much for joining. We got to do a hang session. It's been too long in real life or just a long Zoom call talking about everything. Coop, everybody can follow you at DCS Crypto. Where else?
And Coupe de Ville 2000. My main launch website is coupedeville.xyz. I shout out to Bonfire. I built my website on their platform, but it's all Web3 compliant. You can purchase my music NFTs and my NFTs with a credit card or crypto. And DeVille Crypto Solutions, you can just look for DCS Crypto. It's a blockchain consulting business I founded where I educate people that are new getting into crypto. I help onboard Web2 artists into Web3 and teach them about airdrops, NFT techniques, marketing. That's what I'm doing right now.
Heck yeah. And then Rankin and I at dgb.vc, like I've been saying. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Stoked to have done this. We started it rough, talking about tariffs and all that. And now I'm pretty pumped at the opportunities ahead. And I think everyone should be pumped at the opportunities. Focus on your families, take care of business, go outside. It's a beautiful day, hopefully where you are too. And
touch some grass. Touch some grass.
Yeah, go touch grass
with your feet. You know what I mean? With your feet.
We know exactly what you mean, Coop.
Thanks, guys. Touch some grass.
At least you have your shirt on today. We've had some good late night sessions. That's all I'm gonna say. But have a great day, everyone. Peace out. Talk to you all soon.
All right, fellas. Peace.